We've loved hearing your feedback and emails, your reviews, and your comments. If you or your organization has any interest in supporting this podcast as an affiliate or a sponsor, please email us at connectionsinflight@gmail.com or find us in our socials.
Welcome back to Connections in Flight. I'm Erika.
And I'm Sarah.
Join us as we have another meaningful conversation about navigating our current life flight. Hi.
Hi.
You look Tennessee.
How funny you should say that.
Where have you been?
It's where I'm going.
Oh, you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you going?
Funny, that's the first question because I'm wearing my carry-on today.
Well, it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Packable?
Packable. I am wearing this tennis skirt because a week ago I played my first game of pickle.
Fun.
Yes, it's super fun. But when I put this tennis skirt on to go play this sport last week, I felt absurd. I felt so uncomfortable.
So let me just describe this. It's all black.
All black.
Which you are into like lots of wildness and color. And Is it so simple? Is that what made it feel awkward?
You know what? No. And this is where we're going to go with today's word, actually.
Okay, I'm so curious. What is the word for today?
The word is belonging.
So much
We'll pick
to
back
talk
up on
about.
this tennis skirt.
Here we go.
Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just have to answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from an in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/connectionsinflight. That's better, capital BETTERHELP.com/connectionsinflight.
So, Sarah, your word belonging. What made you pick that?
Okay, last week we had like a couples date with some other couples who play pickle. It's sporty, it's fun, you're outside. It's all the things I'm like trying to get more of into my life. I went to the paddle clinic and I just had an old feeling come up in my body. I've experienced it my whole life. And to be honest, you're the first person I've ever talked to about it, where I just feel like I do not belong. The funny thing about it is I did belong there, okay, for all intents and purposes. It would be a completely normal thing that you learn to go play a new leisure sport with a bunch of friends. And I even said to some of my friends, I have like a serious case of imposter syndrome right now. I don't feel like I belong here. I felt fat in the tennis skirt. I felt like I looked ridiculous. I've never done this sport. It was my first time ever. And no, that's not a big deal. But I felt this feeling. I have felt it. I can even tell you some other examples in my life where I just get this sense of, I don't belong here. I look ridiculous. I'm wreaking uncomfortable energy to the universe. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just talk about it with Erika.
Well, I'm so glad you are. Everyone out there that's hearing you knows exactly what you're talking about.
Oh my God, like I'm sweating.
And I'm laughing when I say that out loud because like looking at you in that outfit, no one would ever think you are uncomfortable. I think it's what connects us. I think we all do have that feeling. There's two things I was going to ask you. One is how you felt in your own skin in terms of belongingness and in the outfit. And you said I was feeling fat or whatever. But then the other way to look at this word is to the group. So you said you're with some friends, but you were doing something new. Like you're in a tribe that you know, but your tribe is doing something that you're new at. So you're going to feel a little more insecure.
I can tell you that in my own skin, I felt completely miserable. Even before we left, I just thought I looked unattractive. I looked goofy. I felt like people would look at me and just think, ugh, why is she even doing this? But I was with some very good friends, people I'm extremely comfortable around.
Mm-hmm.
That part, that was not part of it. I felt good with them.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt like I didn't belong there.
Did it dissipate?
It did.
How long into that did it take to shift?
I started feeling uncomfortable about an hour before we went. Oh, I should also say the reason I have this on, I'm not just like wearing that. I'm also going to play again tonight.
I would have loved the costume just for the feels.
We're going back tonight, so it was a success.
Good. Okay, are you nervous right now?
I'm feeling okay, but I always feel okay in this session because it's just the two of us, and I feel, even though it's being recorded, I feel very safe here. So it probably started to dissipate about an hour in when I realized that there were some very good people playing. They were all so nice and patient, and the people teaching us were a solid 10 of human beings. They don't care. It wasn't like it was like a competition. We were all just there to have a good time, and I don't know why I was insecure.
You said you have felt this so many times in your life. Kind of close your eyes and just float back to the earliest time in your life that you can remember feeling that discomfort.
6th grade. I know exactly when it was. It was like 6th grade. Okay, this is also something I've always, my whole middle school, high school, college, probably even into some of medical school, I've always been extremely intimidated of people a class or two above me. I don't know where that comes from, but I don't know if it's, I think they deserve the respect, or they're older, or they're cooler, or they're better looking, or they already know the ropes. But I've just always felt like I couldn't be friends with somebody a class or two above me.
Can I jump in with some science here?
Oh my God, please. Because like my armpits are sweating, like talking about this.
We're going to talk about why your armpits are sweating. Seriously. So if you think we're going to go back to prehistoric times, right? To stay alive in the wilderness, you could not do that alone. You had to belong to a tribe.
Okay.
And the word that comes up for me a lot when working with people talking about this is the word enough. So if we want to be accepted by the tribe, if we don't feel like we're enough just as we are to be accepted, we are going to feel like we need to be the fastest, the smartest, bring a gift, do something more than just us being us to get into the tribe. And if we feel that chronically, that kind of stress may make us not attempt to get ourselves out there, which creates chronic loneliness. That's a whole nother topic that's integrated into this. But the reason belongingness is so important is that it's what keeps us alive. So if you're going into something new, even though you're with friends, but you're afraid of being judged, those upperclassmen, and by the way, it's so interesting you said 6th grade. 12 is when this kicks in.
Well, I'm a classic textbook example then.
But do you know why 12? This is so interesting, I think.
I have no idea. You get pubic hair?
Well, that might be something that's happening. But when you think of little kids in the grocery store being silly, like as a parent, we might laugh at them. Aren't they cute? Like they're silly. But when our own children are in that middle school age, sometimes it churns up awkwardness in ourselves. And as a result, it's like grades, sports, pressure, friends. We want so badly for our kids that age to find their tribes, because that's when that happens. Their friends become their lifelines more than their parents, in terms of what's important to them. So there's a lot more pressure. Think of all the changes.
I have a 13-year-old, so I'm thinking about this right now.
Hormones, awkward. Some are playing with their pet turtles, and some are trying to date, and some, their skin is different, their hair is different. Every month they change. So that sense of where do I belong, they are finding themselves. They're figuring out their autonomy. There's so much happening. Let me just go back to the upperclassmen thing. The kids 2 years above you, if they were the tribe leaders, they're the alpha. That thing that scared you kicked in to keep you alive.
Oh my
God. You want the ones that are older with the power, the success, the ones who have navigated the paths ahead of you. You want them to accept you in the world, or that rejection means you're going to get eaten by the saber-toothed tiger. God. Your anxiety around that is not only normal, but it's trying to keep you alive. And I think one thing I love about this whole science stuff is our bodies, I'm sure I've said this in here a million times, I'm going to say it again because it makes me so excited. Our bodies and our brains are always trying to keep us alive. When we're like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
We ask it from a different angle of, in what way might this be trying to keep me alive? It's a whole different spiral than, if we're just curious about it, how is this keeping me alive? That's very different than, I don't know what's wrong with me. And then it kind of goes into that performance anxiety and then on and on and on. But I think just understanding, if we are getting anxious an hour before because we're putting a tennis skirt on and we're like, what the hell is wrong with me? But we now understand, oh, I'm doing something new. Oh, there may be new people there that are better than me. That's like kicking in the signals. And if we understand them, we'll be less judgmental. But if instead, go back to that 12-year-old girl, we're like, oh my God, I'm a failure. No one will ever like me. Or I won't ever get whatever. And that's a secondary stress that's going to increase our anxiety, make us more insecure. And it just builds and builds and builds.
That does make me feel better, but I feel kind of ridiculous that I still relate to that.
Why ridiculous? What? Oh, wait.
I want to shame myself.
Good catch. Of course, that 12-year-old is still in you. It's in all of us.
It's so interesting. So I was thinking of some other examples in my life where I just feel so icky with myself. I just think I don't fit in here with these people. And one of the places that I have done this is at my kid's school. I have a vivid memory of an event. It was like a festival kind of field day kind of thing. It's all day long and parents can volunteer. The first year, I didn't even know they had it. So I was probably working, probably even the second year. But at some point, I volunteered for this day. I remember being so excited because I was like going to help at school. I don't do that. I mean, I'm not saying this out of pride or like, look at me, I'm working. It's not something that's been a part of my life where I'm like bringing the cupcakes or.
Well, you're also working.
Right. So I'm just saying it like not against working moms or the moms who have the time to do this. Just want to be like sensitive to, I know this could like stir up a whole different conversation, but I'm not that mom. I never have been. Okay. But I was off work. I signed up for this. And you can buy the T-shirts for the day. And they're just like generic cotton, very non-sexy T-shirts. They're probably like a penny. You know what I'm talking about? Just cheap cotton T-shirts. They're not sleeveless, just the normal sleeve, crew neck. And it's like for that school thing. And I remember going to this day with my oldest to my assignment. And I was like the only mom that had one of these shirts on. And you would have thought I was going to like 6th grade cheerleading tryouts. Everybody else looks so cool and like they had done this before. And of course, that's not true, okay? Like there were other moms like me who had never done this before, but it's that same feeling. Like I do belong there. My kids go to school there. Like I have 3 kids at this school. Like this was nothing external. This was nothing anybody said to me. This was all me being in my own skin. Like, why am I not comfortable with myself? And I'm an adult woman. I mean, this was probably like when my kids are rising seniors. So it's probably, like, 8, 9, 10 years ago? I mean, if I can do math, I don't even know if that's right. But like, I'll never say them. But
it sounds like you felt like you stood out and you were at risk for being judged.
I don't know. There's nothing to judge because I was there in that capacity.
That's where the feeling of fear, awkwardness is connected to that 12-year-old girl who is like, it is really important for me to belong somewhere. And if you think about what kids, how they measure each other at that age, it's what shoes do you have and what like friendship pin do you have in your backpack? It's, do we share sort of the values of what we think is important? And if we haven't had enough life experiences at that age, then sometimes clothes can be a measuring stick, unfortunately. But and that's where as parents, I'm going to bring this back into the adult world, is we have to really be having conversations with our children, knowing how awkward that can feel, about their worth, regardless of the grade, regardless of the win, regardless of the amount of friends they have, that we kind of walk with them through their journey without, we make it safe.
And I love
think
that. I want to take it to kids.
That's what I want you to take to yourself as the adult. Because we don't have these conversations. I don't know an adult who has not felt that awkwardness or that drive to want to belong is healthy. Now, the group we're wanting to belong to, if it's new and we don't know yet if we're being judged or not, that's okay too to feel unsure about that. So there is going to be some element of discomfort because if we don't have the same values or I can't be safe in my own skin with this group that I don't know yet. We need to understand that about ourselves. I think a lot of it is the uncertainty of this tribe, right? Even if it's just for an hour at a school picnic, it also brings back that sensitivity awareness of we throw our kids into new situations all the time. Go to the birthday party. It'll be fun. And they are constantly having to learn how to kind of adapt. And then as we get older and we get really good at the things we do, or we don't push ourselves as often sometimes into that kind of experience. So I love that you are, neuroplasticity moment. You are trying something new. There is friction in what you know, and then you're trying something new with the pickleball, and then you're putting yourself in a situation that's uncomfortable. You saw yourself adapt. That sensation dissipated. Every time you do that, more neurons fire and wire. And so now you have that to rely on, that neural network that's adaptive now. But so much of what makes that adaptive is the self-talk.
Because of all the therapy, I did realize that day, a week ago, that I needed to really have like an adult conversation with myself. I don't want to shame myself, but like, this is normal. Am I the only adult that has ever felt uncomfortable? I mean, it's not like I'm trying to be cool with other adults, but at the same time, like I want to feel, I don't know, I just feel like sometimes people seem so at ease at adult small talk. And I don't think I'm good at that. I'm not shaming myself. Like, I just don't think I'm good at it. And I think sometimes I can come off as maybe aloof or snobby. But I just don't want to join in on going to this group where people are all learning this new thing, because it was me and my friends and then some other people. And then
What might make someone think you're aloof or snobby?
because I just don't like have a lot to say about. I just don't. When
You get shy?
I get shy.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going back to the 12-year-old girl.
Well, she's
You're the
like
adult.
she's sitting right here.
She is. She is absolutely welcome at this table.
Like I had a perm and braces.
We're
So
going to put her on
picture
your
that.
lap, and we're going to get
No,
a gentle
like-
hug. I want you to talk to her. She's going to pickleball tonight, and she's scared to death because she's not sure if she looks fat in her skirt, and she's not sure if she knows what she's doing, and she doesn't want to be embarrassed.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Oh my god. It's,
Can you please tell her, knowing that what we just talked about, how would you talk to her? You're the mom.
This is hitting pretty hard because I have a child who's 13.
But we're talking to that
Okay.
12-year-old
well,
you.
Okay. I don't even know if this is healthy, but I have a kid going through this right now. So I have 3 kids. Definitely, they're all polar opposites. Okay.
Wait. Come back to the part. You know why? This is where the healing happens.
I would just tell her that, I think I would say something like, it doesn't matter. Like, this is just for fun. I don't know if that's healthy or not. Like,
Well, you know that too in your head.
I mean, it's just
but
pickleball.
if she's feeling scared or awkward or shy, what can you tell her about herself?
Erika, I don't know. I don't know what I would. I don't know what I would say to myself.
What did I just say to you?
I don't know. I'm so nervous. I can't
It's
even.
okay.
Like,
Okay, that right there is what you can tell her. We all get
Oh.
nervous.
okay.
I can feel this nervousness too. I know that feeling. And it's normal to feel that. Not caring, like just don't care about it, makes us feel more alone in it.
God, that's where I went.
Right?
That's
We all do, because we want it to be okay, but that's not what makes it okay, because that could be dismissive. Like that could make us feel like, oh my gosh, why am I so nervous if it's not that big of a deal? So we want to come back to her and say, oh yeah, I've been there. You
But
might even share a story.
I feel ridiculous telling my 47-year-old self that, though.
No, so here's what we're doing. No, this is a great question. By talking to your 12-year-old self that way and giving her that unconditional support, she's not crazy. There's nothing wrong with her. That makes sense that you're nervous.
Oh my God, I was like, I
Then
could cry.
it won't feel as scary for you as a 47-year-old because you're healing that part. She's like, be careful out there. Be careful out there. It's really embarrassing when something happens in the lunchroom and everyone's looking at you. Don't say anything wrong. The upperclassmen might laugh at you. They're gonna think you're a nerd, and then good luck for your social life. Like that's the voice we need to give her a big hug and say, we've all been there. It makes sense you're nervous, but I got this. I'm gonna go have some fun tonight. And that will quiet that voice We're going to like let her take a little nap and rest and chill out and let the adult self go and push through there's going to be some discomfort, but there won't be the level of anxiety. This is not about the tribe.
So this is pretty fascinating. This talking to yourself as your 12-year-old, I have never once thought, do that.
Mhm.
Is that a thing in
It is.
psychology and therapy? And
It's called parts work. And it's like, we have to remember that all the parts in us, they're trying to keep us alive, right? So she's still in there yelling at you when you put the skirt on and how you look, because she wants to keep you alive.
I feel really emotional right now.
I know, isn't it? It is emotional. And she's trying to help you. And this is the image I love to remember how we talked about the secure place of protection versus like the overprotection and all the armor and how that's so much to carry and doesn't work to protect us. What we're doing right now with this 12-year-old that she couldn't do when she was 12 because she didn't know all of this then. Her frontal lobe is still developing, but we're going to say, thank you so much for trying to protect me. And I'm going to try something new and I'm going to have some moments where I'm embarrassed. And I'm with some friends that we share the same values. We're going to have a lot of laughs and you are going to be okay. I'm in charge now. So I'm going to put you in the back seat, put your seatbelt on, and I'm going to drive this car. You can relax now.
Having so many thoughts about these moments where as an adult working woman, like full-fledged adult, I literally have felt like I'm 12 years old. And now that we're talking about this, obviously this paddle thing, it just happened not even a week ago, right? So that's where this all kind of came out. But I was thinking about it during the week because I knew we were going to talk about this. And I was thinking about some other situations that have happened in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years. One of them was that field day. And then another situation where I felt this is when some of the first times I've ever gone to like a black tie social event. Everything that I'm thinking about, they've always had like a clothing, a costume or something.
You know what else it sounds like? And I want to keep that part alive while I say this. It sounds like it involves small talk. And I think that makes sense too, because when there's just small talk, it's hard to know who people really are. You know, what can I really trust about this person? What do I share in common with this person? So if there's a lot of small talk in a lot of tribes, it's like, what's safe for me?
Another place I've done it, I mean, anyone will attest to this, that where we go to school with our kids, but there's another friend of ours and he's also a friend of ours and he's the kind of friend that can joke with me. And he's just like, Sarah, you are so antisocial at your kids' sports events. When I go to their sports events, if I see these people who I know most of them, I won't go over there and I will sit by myself on the bleachers.
I do that too.
Okay, so is this normal?
I think we're both shy. I think we both have that. And look what I do for a living. I'm one-on-one in deep conversation with people.
What is shy? Like, what is that?
That's a good question. Okay, so shy, and a lot of people ask, like, is shy different than social anxiety? And
I'm curious. I'd like to talk about all these things because people would not think of me as shy.
Right. Well, okay, there's so many different places we could go here. Shyness is not anything to feel shame around, but it usually shows up in childhood when a child is going into some kind of new situation. It could be a new conversation. It could be a new dropping off at kindergarten. And if when that child walks in the classroom, the teacher's like, oh, come on, it's fun. Look, Bobby's playing with the dinosaurs and let's get him. And then that kid is like, what's wrong with me inside? Because I don't want to, this is scary. Well, they're saying I should be having fun, not to worry. So that shyness creates more internal angst of be something wrong.
And we all do it, or I do it. I've done it to my own kids.
But if that teacher came in, saw shy Bobby, you know, coming in like the first day of school and said, there's a lot going on in this room right now, isn't there? Kind of hard to walk in the door for the first time.
Oh my God.
Would you hold my hand and let's just walk around the room together?
God.
And ease into that, then it makes Bobby safe in his skin.
Oh, I hope somebody does that to me at paddle tonight.
You do it to you right now.
I'll do it to
We're going to go
myself.
back to kindergarten. But there's nothing wrong with feeling nervous in a new situation, which is why I think it's so good to talk about this as parents and not taking that for granted. I mean, how often are we doing that to ourselves? Like putting ourselves in these situations that are so awkward. That's why I'm so excited for you doing this, because that's how you're building that emotional resilience. The more we do that. But if you're like, I am so shy, I have nothing to offer, I'm awkward, you're less likely to have a conversation. Now, part of the reason I also sit alone on the bleachers is because I really do want to watch my kid because I don't get to see all the games. So I just want to say, like, sometimes I just like to be after talking to people all day long. Sometimes I also appreciate it has nothing to do with me liking the people.
No, me
it's
neither.
more of just the energy I have to have a small talk conversation where I want to be really present.
Okay, I'm like making notes over here.
Okay, good.
Tell me you've heard other adults talk about this in therapy.
100%.
Okay.
I mean, every day, Sarah, in some context.
Okay, I'm not like alone in like this. Okay,
No,
that's number one.
Can I just say something again on that? When you go into a new group, remember we've all been there. I mean, the ones that are so self-righteous that would deny that, you don't want to be liked by anyway.
Oh, yes. I can't get over it. I can't get over this. Like, they already know the ropes. Bill, I don't know what stunted me to not be able to be like, they feel the same way or they felt the same way.
You've not thought about it this way before.
No, I haven't.
Can I give you a few tips?
Please.
For what you can say or think about going into that might help? Because just understanding the science is one thing, but like, then what, right? So you're going tonight, you kind of have been there before. So keeping going and practicing that with the same group, it'll get easier and easier. Like the 33rd day of school, Bobby's much better than he was the first day, right? So that's normal. There's a couple different things you can do. You can focus on, what do I want out of this today? If I just wanted to learn one new thing, the other thing I do is I might say, by dinner, this will be over. Really, if it's a hard conversation I have to have or a business meeting or recording my first podcast, like it's like, okay, by dinner, this is behind me. And there is something about seeing me on the other side of it. You know how when like at the end of the day, you're like, that wasn't such a big deal. Or you don't even think about it anymore. You're on to the next thing. So that can be helpful because it kind of puts in perspective. Is it kind of
like that thing that you say, like, it won't matter in 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 years?
Right. Except it's close enough in time that you can connect to it. It's not like in 5 years, I won't think about this, depending on how big it is. But right now, it's a pickleball lesson. I mean,
and again, the pickleball is what brought it up. But I mean, this is like,
I'm using that as an analogy.
Multiple,
but a field day, like by dinner, this is over. That's you kind of put it in context.
I actually I could really work with that in a lot of things in my life. I could really work with that at work.
It's like you see yourself getting through the tunnel. You know?
No, I'm loving that.
Okay, here's another one. So if you're going in and it's a group, you have no idea like what they're into, because this one was different a little bit because you had friends.
Tonight's friends.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about like a cocktail party or whatever. Or a work thing.
Listen,
okay.
Cocktail parties, most people know. I mean, for me to, like, I say no more than yes. Like, I get.
That's okay. That's okay.
I mean, I couldn't even go to something today. I was like overwhelmed with like, what am I even talk about?
Well, okay, 2 things. One is to go into yourself and remind myself of my worth as a human being. Get regulated in your own skin. Because if you're saying, what on earth do I have to talk about? There's shame in that. So it doesn't mean you have to be self-righteous, but it means that you connect to that pure value you have. Like, I'm supporting the cause of this cocktail party. Or after I am social, I always feel better, which is true. Because if we get too scared and we get to, I'm not good at this, we are going to create chronic loneliness. And that has so much danger in it. And we can get into the science of that in a second. But I want to come back to what we say to ourselves is, what's important to me about going? And if there's nothing, you don't have to go. But it's about really staying true to what you value. Is if I meet one person that I have an interesting conversation with, or I learn one new thing from somebody I didn't know before, I can go in with questions. I can be curious. I can show care. Go in with this perspective. You're going to love this. How are we all connected? How are we all? Let's find ways we're all connected. Oh, we all have children, or we have this fundraiser, cause in common. We like pets, or whatever it is. But just be curious about what might we have more in common than me being different.
So I love that. And I can even think about that till last week. Let me make it clear. I wanted to go to learn this sport. And again, I'm so lucky that I went with very good friends that I feel very comfortable around these people. So I did want to go, and it did get better. And by the end of it, like, we were like going, I want to do it again. So I think it was a win. Maybe I had a moment of neuroplasticity.
Absolutely, you did.
And
because you got out of your comfort zone, but it was still safe.
It was. it was still safe. But I want to ask you a question that also came up this week. Okay. I don't know if this even relates. I might be getting slightly off, but it has to do with shyness. I've said on this podcast before that after work, I like to go on a walk in a park or outside because I'm a vampire. I mean, I'm in the dark all day long, especially this time of year and walk. Say, for example, I'm walking counterclockwise and there is this man who's been walking clockwise. So we pass each other twice, right? Because it's a loop. And there's a woman too sometimes there. And both of them were very friendly. Like, hey, I see you here a lot. And they started talking. And then I'd pass them again. And then they're like, hey, like, where are you from? So
Are they stopping you to talk?
no, just in passing. And it's friendly. I'm not threatened by it or anything. It's nothing like that. But it was causing me so much anxiety that I was going to have to pass these people. And I was going to have to come up with something clever to say. I left. I was like, I just cannot even deal with, I don't even want to talk to somebody. Is that
No, I think some of it's timing. You're there to de-stress and process and have alone time and be in your rhythm. And that feels interrupted. I mean, that's such a Southern thing.
It makes me so
I
uncomfortable.
completely understand. And I think like a good morning is nice, but I like wanting to dive into conversation is not what you're needing in that point.
But
so it doesn't
I
make you
felt-
antisocial. I just think we have to be respectful. Some people love that. Some people are very lonely and that's where they talk to people and they meet people. That's okay. You know, there's neighbors that do that and it's okay to be different is my point. That doesn't make you antisocial, but I think you have to be true to your values. But if you want to walk, you know, you put your headphones on, you smile and nod, but keep moving.
That was one thing. I didn't have my headphones on. I thought to myself next time.
Right. And it's just the cue that you're in your zone.
I might put on these podcast headphones so everyone
Everyone's
knows.
a big old sign. Yeah. No, but it's a good question. And it doesn't mean you're not friendly. Sometimes it's just timing.
True.
You know, sometimes you're working through something in your head.
Well,
or,
I took it to the extreme and I'm like, I'm just going to leave this park. I can't talk to one. I can't even make small talk with one other.
if you say that in a way that's like, right now, that's not what I'm needing,
Okay.
that's different than there's something wrong with me.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And listening to our needs helps us know what our values are. I value my alone time or I value my walking, as we've said, is the most healthy,
Right.
problem solving, relieving all the stress of your day.
That just happened 2 nights ago. And I thought, why am I taking it to this extreme?
Do you know what it reminded me of so much? It reminds me when you sit down on an airplane and like someone sits next to you and you're like, oh, please don't start talking.
Sometimes I act like I
Or
can't speak
sometimes
English.
it's great. Like some people just love that. My
No.
dad gets off a plane and he's like, oh, I had the best conversation with this person and you know where they're from. And they were like, it's a and I was like, oh my gosh, how
No.
do you go there? Because once you go there, it's hard to stop. Like, you know, if you start being friendly and then it's awkward.
What a funny point that is.
You
Okay,
know-
that is so funny because on airplanes, if someone starts talking to me, I already start getting anxious because I love to talk for a little bit. Maybe like 5-10 minutes. But once, you know, I got to get my routine on. We all know that. I've got my flight anxiety worksheet I have to go through mentally. So I'm like,
All right.
you know, 5-10 minutes talking or we have kids or blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, how am I going to wrap this up? Like, and we can't do this.
Funny, I was thinking the other day, this is so random. If I could ride in an airplane with everyone we've had as a guest, do you know how many times I would talk the whole time?
No, that would be
I would
different.
listen the whole time. I mean, it's like sort of like it's the uncertainty of where the other person's going to go. Sometimes, like, I don't know this person. We just sat down.
I'm going to tell one quick story, just totally kind of off the subject, but just this is a testament to how awesome humans can be. I was in medical school. I was flying to Chicago for New Year's, and I was flying by myself. And do you remember in Southwest when the front row faced the back of the plane?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, this is a long time ago. I mean,
Totally.
I was in med school. This is a long time ago.
That's like where the families would sit.
Yes, but I was sitting there for some reason, and I had on this coat with some fur on it, and this man sat across from me, and he had on a coat with some fur on it. I had already had a little bit of a flight anxiety then, and this guy did too. Well, anyways, we just talked the entire flight. We got off the plane. We even went to like the luggage together, and he got off the luggage rack, this like tech looking from the futuristic space shuttle thing. He got it off. Literally, it was like Back to the Future. He popped the top off, like not steam, but like cold ice, like vapors came up, and he had like 12 bottles of wine in there. And he was like, I just had the best flight. I wasn't even anxious. Pick whatever bottle you want.
Oh my gosh.
Girl, I'm not
dream.
even fancy enough to tell you what I picked. But when I took it to meet up with everybody, I had picked like you know what a first growth, like French something like Chateau's? Me neither. But I had picked that.
Oh.
And he didn't even raise a brow when I took
Aw.
that out of his cooler. I remember that story.
I want you to think about that every time you fly.
That guy, I mean, that
is a connection in flight, if I've ever heard
It
one.
was not only a connection in flight, but it's like generosity.
Yes.
And
okay. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful segue. Because if you are having any anxiety about belongingness,
okay,
you're going into a group. If you remember how we said like the curiosity about like how we're connected, also the word care. Like if you go in with like, how can I show care? You could give a compliment to somebody else or kind of bond with like, have you ever tried anything new before? You know, something where you're caring and it's creating a connection. People, we all want that. You know, it's not kissing up or like being fake, but it's just a little nugget of care, which is why the eye to eye walking, you know, past someone in the morning saying good morning or a smile,
right?
It changes the chemistry. And I'll tell you, the loneliness, when we feel so alone in something, I just do want to say the science of why it makes you sweat when you feel alone in this.
I'm sweating less, but at the beginning of this episode, I'm like, got swamp pits.
I know, but you're good now. We're
I'm going to
it.
play paddle, so who cares? Or pickle. I don't even know.
Oh, see, listen, now that 12-year-old girl's like, go girl.
Yeah, I'm feeling better.
Okay. But it's the loneliness. And the reason that this is so powerful when it seems so small is that, just like I said, in terms of survival, when the brain signals loneliness, the neuron that kind of shoots the signal down to the spinal cord into the central nervous system, it activates genes.
Oh.
It changes the signaling of a gene to create inflammation in our body. Because if we were exposed to a virus, that inflammation fights, it flares up. We're in that fight or flight mode. But if we're chronically in that, we use our energy resources to depletion, and then we're more susceptible for disease. So diabetes, depression, and anxiety, which lead to suicide and addiction. So that's why all this information and studies, I'm sure you've heard about longevity and loneliness being so detrimental to longevity and health.
Oh, I have.
When Dr. Beth Riley was on our show, and she talked about that with cancer patients, that the ones that came in a room with other family members
do better. Better prognosis.
Exactly. So that is so scientifically trying to help us. Loneliness sends a pain signal in our body that we're in danger, but it's trying to keep us alive. We need to thank it, and we need to talk to ourselves in a way that reminds us we're not in danger. This is normal. I can get through it. At dinner, this will be over. And even if it was a flop, even if we did get embarrassed, even if we didn't know what we were doing, how we talk to ourselves is, well, at least I tried, or there's going to be some good stories that come out of this. But that is so different than putting ourselves in that threat loop of language of, oh, I'm never doing this again. Oh, I'm antisocial. Don't talk about all the things that are wrong with me, but understanding what those negative feelings are, those nerves are, in ways that they're trying to keep you alive can shift the whole self-talk.
I've never thought about how I talk to myself.
And most of us haven't.
There are certain ages of my life that I feel a lot.
12. You brought 15 up a lot.
I brought 15 up a lot. I could go into a lot about that. I remember a lot about being 12. I remember a lot about that year. And I have a 13-year-old. I think he has a lot of some of my characteristics about like, I think he said things to me before, like, I like go to the party and just have fun. Like everyone's having a great time. Like I'll even say like, you know, you're going to have a great time when probably he's thinking, no, I'm not. So let me ask you, how old is my adult self as you kind of started with me? How can I talk to a teenager who's finding himself? Okay, when like they're faced with maybe a social event or something.
I think you join with them in the pain in terms of, I've been there. I totally understand what that feels like to be in a new situation. It's hard. What do you think is worth it? What do you want on the other side of this party? Or what would make it worth it even if it's uncomfortable?
That's a question I've never asked myself about any event.
Can I tell you what my 13-year-old daughter did? Because my son is younger and he was going to camp for the first time, like a sleepaway camp in the summer. And they were going to the same camp, they had little friends there and everything, but he could be more homesick. And I sort of didn't know what to tell him about that. Like, because I'm one that could get homesick so easily. I mean, I did. I mean, so easily.
Well, it makes me feel better that you were temporarily at a
I
lack
was
of
like,
words.
I
in
needed
your...
to talk to my 12-year-old self about homesickness. But my daughter said, I said, what do you say to yourself when you're homesick? Because she's been to camp before. She's been homesick. And she goes, I don't know, Mom. I just tell myself, I've got to get through it. I got to get through it. It's like, just keep putting one foot in front of the next. And somehow that was so helpful. It was just very simple. It's like, I don't know. I just tell myself I got to get through it. It was like, it took the danger out of it. It didn't take the discomfort out. But him hearing her say that, it was like I get it. And all of a sudden he felt less alone in it, you know? And I think that's what, as a parent, it's not, oh, I know it's so hard. It's not drama, but it's, yeah, I get it. And then they feel less alone in it. And they feel like there's not something wrong with me, that I don't think this sounds fun right now.
Right.
You know?
Oh, I'm just thinking about some of the things I've been like, just go.
We all do. But I think if we understand why their bodies are sending the signal.
What do you think are some signals maybe to either me or my 12-year-old self or my teenager? When do you think there's a signal that's like, you know what, don't go?
Great question. I think you have to balance the value versus what your need is. Like if it's like, well, they keep asking me, I don't hear value in that. Is it important to you? Is it more afraid of letting someone else down? Is it about, I think a lot of it's the reason you're saying no or not wanting to. Like, is it because I'll feel stupid or I don't belong there? Or is it, you know, I used to really enjoy this group, but I've noticed when I'm in this group and the topics, they get gossipy and it just makes me feel uncomfortable. I think I'm going to sit this one out. So there you're connecting with your own values.
Oh, I have so many things
and I don't mean that in like a
right
judgy
now.
way at all, but more in like a what's important to me? What am I saying yes to by staying home? Maybe I just need a night of rest.
So a perfect example just happened 2 weeks ago. It was a middle school dance and my 13-year-old started talking about it. At first he was like, he didn't want to go. And I was like, that's fine. I didn't really argue. But I was like, okay, cool. You don't have to go. But then he was saying some things like, well, you know, blah, 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 blah. I kind of got a feeling that he wanted to go. But I did leave it in his court, I guess, to say like, you know, I don't care if you go. You don't have to go to a dance. But I think, and he will talk to me, but I think his, like what you just said, I love that about what do I want out of this or what is the value? And I think this is completely fine. I think he just wanted to check a box that said, I survived my first middle school dance.
Yeah. I mean, we probably all have.
Right? I think there was value. Even
Is there anything worse than middle school dance? I mean, see how awkward. I mean, these poor kids. But they,
these poor kids.
Why do we keep making them do it?
I thought to myself,
no,
the
because
same
there's
thing.
value in it.
Well, I did think there's value.
And
there
they can
is
survive
value
it.
in saying I survived my first middle school dance. Like it was horrifying, but I made it out.
And I know he can't really get this now at that age, but as adults, we have to remember that those memories and the connections they make with the other suffering of kids, even if they don't realize it or talk about it now, we're here now as 47-year-olds talking about those moments. It is what connects us.
It is.
You know, you got to go through that. Like, oh, wasn't that awful? Or, oh my gosh, I can't believe that teacher, that chaperone. That's what the bonding is. He may not see that going in about what it's going to look like. I mean, if it's not really dangerous.
Right.
Now, the flip side of that is if they've signed up for something important, like I don't want to go to the last day of school or I don't want to, you know, finish the tournament, you know, then there is a commitment thing where you got to push through that, buddy. It's not all their choice.
Right.
So I think part of it is just reading what the thing is. And it's hard as a parent to know.
I like
There's a lot of variables,
so
you know.
Maybe if they're really struggling with something, you're really struggling, whether to tell them it's one of those times to push on or not. I like that. So just find the value, what they need out of that situation.
And certainly ask more questions with curiosity. Like, well, what does that feel like? Instead of, oh, you're going, buddy. You know, we have to remember we need to see where they are. Every human being that feel belongingness needs to feel seen and heard. And if we can see where our kid is and hear where they are, they may not have the perfect words, but we see. They will feel safer walking through that conversation with us. And they know we will be there when they come back in their bed and they, you know, or we pick them up. We're going to be there and we're going to know that it was hard for them. And that's the message.
I love that.
going back to parts work, we have to really pause and say, is this my 12-year-old stuff? Because what they are resisting or may feel is a threat may be different than what we felt. And we just have to be open to really trying to meet them where they are.
I'm just laughing. I just had a vision of like me sitting across from you and we're like 80 and I'm like, oh, my 47-year-old self, she was an idiot.
Oh my God. Oh, reset the clock.
Okay, you're right. I won't be saying that. I was saying my 47-year-old self, she's really come so far. How's that? How's
Yes.
that? How's that?
Yes, she has so much more joy and love in her life. I mean,
Yeah.
it's love. It's
Mhm.
self-love. And it's not self-love in like, I'm the best. It's self-love in like, life's hard.
I feel like I always do. I feel so good about everything. I feel like the takeaway is self-talk.
Self-talk in what way? What will be different about your self-talk?
Okay, one of the things that you said that has made me feel extraordinarily better is that instead of how bad I felt about being uncomfortable or not belonging when I go to these situations, now that I honestly am reflecting on it, you are correct. They're mostly big social situations. I have never had this feeling at work. I have never had this icky, uncomfortable, not belonging feeling when I walk in to work.
Because you know your purpose there. You know
Like,
what you're there to do.
I have never felt it. I've never had a situation, and I'm working with people who are 30, 40 years older than me, 50 when I first started.
And the values are so already clear,
It's
right? You know what you're there to do that's important. But when you go to a cocktail party and you know the people,
Oh, I get so weird.
but if you stop before you go and say, what do I value about what I'm putting out there for others? Even if it's just like, I'm curious,
Right.
I care, that will change your purpose of going and how you see it, what you give to other people, you know,
Yeah.
and sometimes just smiling and being, you know what, we do not listen enough to each other.
Oh,
We
that
feel
could be-
this
that could
pressure
be a whole-
to say the right thing. But what if we shifted that to seeing and hearing the other person?
I read something one time that it was a few years ago, and it resonated so hardcore in my soul. And it was like, do you know 99% of the time when you, not me, like humankind, when you're listening to someone talking, you're already thinking about what you're going to say. You're not really, you're already thinking about, well, how am I going to respond? Like, you're not really
Hearing that.
you're the words and you're going to come up with something, but you're already thinking about what you're going to reply with.
Right. It's so funny that you said that. My high school friend, she and I would say, I feel like you're hearing me, but you're not really listening. And so that goes back to attention, right? What are we putting our attention on? Is it what I'm going to say next? Because that's going to make us much more anxious of saying the right thing versus really looking at the body language and hearing what's underneath what they're saying in terms of content. But what might they be feeling? Be curious about understanding. Even if it's the most boring topic, when you were curious about the Southwest guy, you got some good wine.
Well, obviously
know?
that
But,
guy
I mean, I'm
was
kidding.
even cooler than
But
I knew.
it's just like being open to connecting to the human being, not just presenting yourself in a way that's going to get looked by the tribe. It's the care. It's the genuine care. Have fun with it. You
And
know?
the self-talk, back to the self-talk though, like I'm just going to, treat myself or tell myself it's normal to be nervous.
Yeah.
What am I going to get out of this? Why am I even going? Because I'm going for a reason.
What do I value about this?
What do I value about this? And
And you might get something out of it that you didn't expect. So be open.
like the flight, I got like a multiple $1,000 bottle of wine
And a story.
and a story. Thank you, Erika.
You're going to rock it tonight.
I'm honestly feeling so cocky
They're
now.
going to think you had secret side lessons because it was just rolling tonight.
I thought about that, but I didn't have time. Thanks, girl.
Okay.
Okay, bye. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to us today on Connections in Flight. Would love to hear back from you. Please feel free to email us, leave feedback or comments.
We'll be back next week with a new word. If you want to discover more about us, please find us in our socials, and all the links are in the show notes.
Please be advised that the information discussed on this podcast is not professional therapy. If you are triggered or activated, please don't be afraid to seek professional help.
Ample. Hee hee.
Is this thing on?
Yeah, that's on. Don't touch that.